Over the last 3 years, we've invested over $1.4 billion in getting our business AI fit. AI you're seeing today will be the worst AI we ever experience. Global EY firm has been investing significantly in building AI technology and also building AI into our existing technology platforms, solutions and services.
So that's why I think for large corporates who are working globally, it becomes even more important to, consult and get certain advice, because the country-wise laws and acts across the regions, across the bodies, this is like a hell of a variety of laws out there, right?
And what's really phenomenal to think about is where we've come the last 18 months with generative AI. It's really rapid. The pace is far more rapid than we saw with the internet.
Welcome to the BetterTech podcast, Catriona. And it's an honor for me to have you with us today. So you have a illustrious career and accomplishments. For our audience who may not be aware about your background, can you give us an introduction about yourself as well as your journey in technology and innovation world?
I would love to. And thank you so much for having me here today. I mean, gosh, the last 18 months have been quite something, haven't they? Really, with the advent of generative AI becoming open and usable by most of society. And I guess my background has really enabled me to harness the power of AI more recently. My background is I have a background in human-computer interaction. HCI, as it's known to those in the field, is really the merging of two different disciplines. It's the merging of technology, and for me that was computer science, and psychology. And the reason that psychology and computer science go so well hand in hand together is when you're designing systems to be intuitive, to be usable, to be effective and satisfying to use, you need to consider the mental models that humans create around those. And you also need to consider how to build them. So that effectively combining of those two disciplines as a career for me has meant that I have been able to build emerging technology that is human-centered and therefore accessible, usable, and efficient. So that's my background. I very much started in financial services, building online banking systems. And from there, having achieved some really super successes, I was very fortunate to be able to set up my own agency that specialized in the field of human-computer interaction, building technology systems for clients. And it grew and grew and grew. And fortunately for me, it had an office in Paris, an office in Dubai, an office in Riyadh, an office in London. And some of the most phenomenal clients came to us to ask us to provide services. And so really, I've been engaged with some phenomenal clients like Sky and Barclays and Lloyds and Microsoft and Dell, and brilliant clients with some fantastic colleagues. We really did, between 2000 and 2015, build some phenomenal successful platforms and technologies. And then EY came along and bought the company, and they bought us, and we joined the EY. And for those listeners out there who might not be familiar with EY, Ernst & Young as it was formerly known. EY is a large consulting firm. It provides services and consulting like risk management, supply chain, technology consulting, people consulting, HR. But also equally it does strategy and transaction work, which is about mergers and acquisitions and things like that. And also equally it does assurance and accounting, audit services, and it also does taxation services. So it's considered one of the big four, as it's known. So they bought the firm, and they very kindly said to me, would you please come join us? So I took a little bit of time out to spend time with the family. You can imagine being a startup founder. It had been a pretty exhausting ride. I took a little bit of time out, and then I rejoined EY in 2018, and I find myself as the CTIO now for our fabulous UK and Ireland firm.
Oh, that's pretty good journey, right? It's like starting from psychology and then bringing the new delivering direction. Because I recall, I think around many years ago when the movie how started. It was really the
Mm.
kind of triangle we started thinking about, okay, how the human are going to interact with intelligent systems. So it's really great to know that you have been on the forefront of that. So that takes me to more towards my next question to your current role as a CTIO of EY UK and Ireland. So how do you leverage AI, particularly generative AI, slash in your day-to-day business, foster innovation? Could you share some example how you're using AI within an organization or with your clients?
Sure, I'd love to. So EY is a really large organisation. We have over 400,000 staff worldwide. In the UK and Ireland, we have just over 20,000 staff. And so with that comes obviously some phenomenal technologists. So globally, we have about 75,000 people who work in the field of technology and innovation. And we're very fortunate to have some incredible systems at our employ as well. And so how we leverage it, and by the way, CTIO stands for Technology and Innovation Officer as opposed to Information Officer, which you might find in some organizations. What we find beneficial for our clients is to deploy systems that are that have a lot of our knowledge built into them. So if I can give you an example, over the last 3 years, the global EY firm has been investing significantly in building AI technology and also building AI into our existing technology platforms, solutions, and services. So I'll give you an example. We provide through our services, financial operating services for clients. And one of them is we help clients with payroll, right? Everyone has staff who need paid. And what we've done is we've built an AI system that better generates people's payroll activity. So we can provide that service to clients. It is actually a really phenomenally successful product and service that is AI integral to it. And it's helping us do our job better and provide better services to clients. So that's a really good example of whereby we're doing that. But we also provide AI strategy, advice, consulting services and technology consulting services to clients who are building AI into what they do. And so in order to do that, we provide a number of solutions for clients. So let's say you're an organization in the UK. You're probably going to want to deploy AI in a safe manner. So we provide responsible AI services. So that is, what's the regulation out there? How do we do this sensibly? What are the internal controls frameworks that we need to put in place? What's the governance model? We also help organize for reputational risks. So we'll say, okay, this is what you need to do. This is what you shouldn't be doing, et cetera, et cetera. So our technology consulting team also provides services that help organizations manage for that. And then also equally, we call it realizing the value from AI. We also do a great deal of proofs of value or use case identification. We help organizations build the right change management around AI in their business. And that's gone incredibly, incredibly well. And so we do all three of those things. So we support clients with regulatory advice, reputational management, but also the realization of the value. So we call it the 3 R's for organizations. So lots and lots of activity out there with clients.
So that's great to know. Maybe because generative AI, you use it in order to the HR function. Could you give like some examples or how you are using then Gen AI with your clients? Do you see a lot of demand from client side? Also internal operational or product enhancement by using generative AI?
Mm.
What are your
Well,
thoughts?
yeah, absolutely brilliant question. Let's start with what our clients are telling us. We did a survey with 1,200 CEOs in January, and that survey confirmed to us that 76% of those CEOs believe that AI is going to deliver efficiency benefits for their business. But only 41% of those businesses consider it to be a top priority. So really, when we look at that kind of juxtaposition, they all know it's important, but not all of them have it as a priority. What we're doing is we're helping those organizations who believe that it's incredibly important for productivity or efficiency benefits and who consider it priority. So really what that ranges from is, with some, it could be, we have cybersecurity challenges. Can you help us with cybersecurity? With others, it will be, help us align a change management program around, for instance, the rollout of Microsoft Copilot. So Microsoft Copilot is a phenomenal set of software applications. It's not one application. Copilot is embedded in Word, it's embedded in Teams, it's embedded in GitHub, it's embedded in PowerPoint, Excel. And so driving the change management around that, how to deploy those, is really, really key. In fact, Microsoft have appointed us one of their partners to do just that, to roll it out, because you can imagine that people may, within the organization, employees may be nervous about such a new technology. They may be nervous that this technology is going to try to replace them. It's not technology that replaces people, right? The technology will be deployed, and what's really important is to do that with a level, I guess, of understanding around the impact to the person's job. In our experience, when we've rolled out Copilot in our early studies, we found that people absolutely loved it. It's saving people a couple of hours in certain tasks, and you really have to look at the tasks that it's really, really good for. And then what you do is you identify that task, identify who would develop that task, use that task with AI, and then work out how to make sure the whole organization knows how to use that specific technology for that task to improve their daily use.
Well, that's great to know. I think you highlighted already pretty key points. It's the return of investment, where the journey makes sense. It's also the change management, and also, bringing people training and bringing to a point where you can make that use. Because that would have been my next question, but that's kind of answered. Thank you very much. But relating to, because you mentioned that you also, consult and advise to use ethical AI and responsible AI, use of AI. So what kind of challenges or issues do you see within organizations, and how you ensure that the initiatives that you take at EY, they adhere to those principles of ethical AI?
I think we call it responsible AI. Responsible AI is adhering to whichever jurisdiction you happen to be in. So if the listeners are in the United Kingdom, then the UK government has got an innovation-friendly stance for AI regulation. So there's a recent white paper out that talks about how the existing regulators will be responding and are going to take an existing regulator will be managing for AI within their particular jurisdiction. We in EY have decided that actually we have AI around the world. Different jurisdictions have different regulations. So we're going to take, and we do take, a principles-based approach to AI. So if you think about a principles-based approach, creating the right principles when you're going to be taking AI, we have 9 of those. They include the explainability of a system, the fairness of a system, transparency, security, data protection, accountability to who owns it, but also equally sustainability, for instance, of a system. So there are a whole bunch of risks that we manage with this principles-based approach. And some of the risks when it comes to AI, I mentioned earlier the reputational risk, but there are also data risks, right? It is estimated that about 20% of staff in the US, and there was a US survey, talk about using shadow AI that is not approved by their organization they work for, but having it on their personal devices, helping them do their jobs. Now, that is a really big reputational risk for the firm. There's cybersecurity breaches potentially, but there's also the amount of material that could be used to train those models that is not necessarily approved, right? So I think data protection, security, transparency are really, really key principles when you think about deploying AI. You also probably need to have a home for responsible AI within your organization, because you will need to tweak your existing frameworks. You'll need to tweak your existing risk management and your internal controls. So having someone who owns that for the organization, be that your CIO or your chief risk officer or your chief legal counsel, will be really, really key to making sure that the responsible use of AI is adhered to across the organization.
Right, correct. Let's say that if that's having a role like chief risk officer or chief ethical officer, what would you suggest to small companies or startups, who are more like just founded AI startup, data-oriented startups, they do
Mm,
not have access to this type of
mm.
role or privilege. What would you suggest? What could be a strategy, or how should they follow the principles?
Sure. So I think when SMEs are considering deploying AI, really important that they have done some level of learning around this. Okay. There are a great deal of free courses out there from most of the big tech organizations. So I would definitely enroll in one of those courses and have someone in the organization who owns this. So, I mean, you could, for instance, look up the Responsible AI course that Microsoft offer. If you use Microsoft and you deploy Microsoft in your company, have a look at the coursework that they have available for free. But also equally, if you're a Microsoft shop and you're going to deploy Microsoft Copilot, understand exactly how to deploy that. It's not as simple as switching on Teams and asking people to use it. It really is about finding those use cases. You know, have an open dialogue with employees, find out what it is they're doing with it, and then share that. Share
Yeah.
that best practice. So have someone who's genned up on this, who understands it, and who's got that ownership within even a small business.
But that's really good, because what I also do sometimes, I work with data scientists a lot, and I also ask my team members that there is no kind of formal, degree right now or certifications of
Mm.
ethics on AI recognized. But I asked to take courses on Coursera. When Michigan State University also has a course on data science ethics. So at least you adhere to the principles. That's
Yes,
that's really good too. And I
agreed.
think,
And make sure you have a definition for your company. Make sure you have that agreed. So that if, for instance, you are a business who has even one single customer in the EU, you'll have to adhere to the EU AI Act. And so it's really important that someone owns that and you have a clear definition of AI and you understand its use internally. So make sure you do that.
So that's why I think for large corporates who are working globally, it becomes even more important to, consult and get certain advice, because the country-wise laws and acts across the regions, across the bodies, this is like a hell of variety of laws out there, right? And it's always very
Agreed.
difficult to, agree. But thank you for the detailed answer. I think you also mentioned this part in your book. And I read your book. It is pretty nice book, AI by Design. Like I read it like cover to cover, written pretty in a very storytelling way, explainable way. And in that book, there are some very very interesting topics. And I think let's start with one. And second, you already mentioned that there were two things that really caught my attention. One was the chapter on where you discuss different scenarios of coexisting with AI. We mentioned five
Mm.
scenarios that we have involved. So maybe for our audience, you could better give some insight from your book about AI scenarios, and which one then you kind of take it as a recommended one for the humanity.
So well, first of all, thank you so much for reading it. And you're right, it's an easy read. I wanted to make sure it was a very accessible book. So many books that I've read in the field of AI are deeply, deeply technical, and I didn't really want it to be deeply technical. And the reason it's called AI by Design is because it's about designing for humans. It's that HCI method. And I take in the first chapter I talk about a future back model of design. Future back is where you effectively envision what could happen and you work your way back and say exactly how to measure and monitor what needs to be done if that is the possible future. So I talk about 5 possible futures with AI. One which is, and by the way, I wrote the book a couple of years ago, and a lot of things actually are coming to pass. One which is this is it's going to come to nothing. And AI is not going to disrupt us at all. And so therefore, what should we do? And the answer is not terribly much. It's just another technology that will just fit into our standard technology world. Another model which is
Sorry, just
actually, go on.
keep calm and carry on, right? Just don't worry about
Yes,
it.
keep calm and carry on. Exactly. Another one which is quite out there was I called it Escape to Mars. It's the opposite. The world is ending. We have not managed this very well, and actually, there's another one which I also favour, which is and by the way, the first one is called Keep Calm and Carry On, and that other one, Escape to Mars, and there's one called Urge to Merge. And Urge to Merge really is around, well, actually, we can live with these incredible technologies, and they can help us become better humans. The Urge to Merge talks about healthcare, and it talks about the phenomenal abilities that people will have accessing knowledge and information they previously wouldn't be able to access. And I think the Urge to Merge scenario is where I landed, because it really is. If you look at, for instance, last week in the press, Elon Musk again has an organization called Neuralink he's invested in. Neuralink is brain interface. It deploys artificial intelligence to understand how the brain can operate through software. And there's a very famous video from last week that was in the news, and it's a gentleman who has been a paraplegic, and he was able to play chess just through his neural interface that he had in the back of his brain. I think that is all absolutely fascinating. However, it's not all as far out there as that. The Urge to Merge means having AI assistants, having agents collaborate with you to help you do your job. Merging with the technology, I mean, gosh, we already have it in our phones in terms of AI applications, and I think that is ultimately where we'll end up. We'll end up having those co-pilots, having those agents, and orchestrating a number of them to live our lives better.
Perfect. Yeah, I can totally relate to that. That we are already glued to technology. So it's just probably the next step to get maybe more closer to that technology. You already mentioned the principles in the room, so you already said that it's probably more towards agreeing on AIX. So you are also part of your leading Scottish AI Alliance. So can you highlight that how this alliance contributes, what kind of initiatives it has, what kind of achievements it has, and how those contributions, achievements, or recommendations can boost globally in
Of
order to
course, yes.
expand the AI framework?
Yes, absolutely. So the Scottish AI Alliance to which you refer is a public-private partnership that the Scottish Government, academia, industry, and civil society effectively came together, and it is responsible for supporting Scotland become a leader in trustworthy, ethical, and inclusive AI. In order to achieve that lofty ambition, what it does is it seeks to promote responsible AI practices. Build a diverse and skilled AI workforce for Scotland, and support AI business and showcase Scotland as a leader globally. Now, very, very lofty ambitions, but a fabulous team of volunteers as well as permanent staff, supported by the minister who's responsible for this in Scotland, by the name of Mr. Richard Lochhead. And the Scottish AI Alliance does a number of things in order to achieve those ambitions. And it's actually one of them is happening tomorrow. We hold a thing called the Scottish AI Summit. And that is an annual event where hundreds of people from across each of those different areas, so government, academia, industry, civil society, convene to talk about all manner of issues when it comes to AI. There is also a free course for every citizen in Scotland to take called Living with AI that seeks to demystify AI and generative AI to the Scottish populace. And then the third thing it does is it seeks to bring together in one central location in a place called our Playbook, which is actually a wiki site, all of the things going on in and around AI in Scotland so that people have a one-stop shop. Now, it's not perfect. We're getting there with that. But that is certainly a big focus for us for next year, because that will be how SMEs, small businesses, individuals will be able to go and learn more about AI in Scotland. It's a phenomenal, very, very small team, but it's been my privilege to chair that over the last year and to also to go into next year.
Well, that's really great to know, especially, this AI for everyone type of awareness also, so that, we are more aware and about the use of that and less scared. I think even in one of your chapter, I saw the Nelson Mandela's quote, and I pretty much like that one. It was like, it's better, that our choices are based on hopes and not fears. So that was very cool. Now a little bit, changing the topic, about your personal, recognition. You have an illustrious career. You have been really well recognized. You have an MBA. You were awarded MBE for your contributions in the field of technology and innovation. On the personal side, what is your own wow or most satisfying contribution? What do people say? Or is I'm the most happy about it, what I had done?
Oh, what an amazing, amazing question! It makes me feel so honoured and humbled to have done some of the things that I've had the opportunity to do. But one of the things that's throughout my career, from being working in the field of online banking, to then setting up my agency, to then working for one of the biggest companies in the world, one of the things that has always kept me excited and energized about working is being purpose led. And that purpose takes me to a number of different pro bono government projects. I've been fortunate enough in my career to have done 3 really big projects with the UK government. And I'd like to refer to one because I think all of our listeners would be very familiar with it. In the year 2003, the UK government decided that a lot of the services were going to go online. And so they asked a number of experts to join with these phenomenal government individuals to effectively draft what would end up being a big publishing system for all government websites. And they wanted these experts in because they wanted to make sure they were accessible. Now, accessibility throughout my career has been something I've been very, very, very focused on. Accessibility in terms of people who may have impairments and who need to be able to use digital services. And those digital services really ought to adhere to the W3C, the Web Accessibility Content Guidelines, so which ensures that developers encode the right types of technological assistance to make sure that anybody with a disability or impairment can access them. So I was really privileged to do that. The Whitehall publishing system then went live, and with these accessibility and usability guidelines behind it, which meant that everyone was able to access, for instance, their tax return, to do planning for their property, to access a driver's license, to access a new passport. All of those government services were created with that standardized methodology. And it meant that people were able to use it from any walk of life. And I think that's really, 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 that's been really important for my career. To have an accessibility specialism and ensure that people can use and access systems regardless. So that's one of my favourite ones, but I've more recently been involved with one I'm not allowed to talk about, which was to do with supporting the government with a new form of technology, but unfortunately not allowed to speak about it on this.
That's very fine. And I think the example you gave is really novel, and the accessibility is, I think, one of those topics there that has to be taken care of. And that's really good to know. And now a little bit back to let's say the impact of AI on the world. EY's mission is to build a better working world, and it places a lot of focus on using technology for that. So how do you envision AI and Gen AI is going to shape the future of work, and what step businesses can take to prepare? You mentioned some of that in early, but I would like to kind of refine it.
So let's make this really applicable to everyone who's listening. I personally think we, by the way, have been on our AI journey for the last, quite some time. But in the last 3 years, EY really stepped up their investment in this. Over the last 3 years, we've invested over $1.4 billion in getting our business AI fit. And so I'm not suggesting that everyone here needs to invest huge amounts in this. There are so many open source applications that can be deployed as well. So let's make it really applicable. I think one of the things that businesses and organizations need to do is they need to find people, a coalition of the willing, if you like, people internally who have an interest in this. People from a diverse set of skills is important as well. This is not just another technology implementation. This will need to be harnessing change management expertise, communication expertise, HR expertise, risk and legal we've talked about as well as technology skills. And once you've got that coalition of the willing within the organization, you need to find your use cases. You need to examine exactly where could this application of AI really benefit your business. Now, organizations, they predominantly are looking at the financial area of a business. So if you think about the CFO's area or your financial controller's area, if you're a small business, there's probably quite a lot of Excel spreadsheets. There's probably quite a lot of reporting that goes on. That's how businesses run. Great data. I think, therefore, it's really important that you start with an area like that, where there's lots of rules-based work, because that is when models become really effective. It's really important that you then take that team in there. You identify a use case. You identify which technology is going to support that transformation of that particular area, and you manage that as a collective, and you test and learn. So doing it responsibly means not necessarily rolling it out. It means testing it within a proof of concept, ensuring that the right technology provision is in place, and then thinking about how to scale that particular instance. It's almost like you're creating a little factory. Right. You're going to design a prototype, and then you're going to scale that prototype out to mass production. So my advice is find an area with lots of rules, like finance, like reporting. Take all those Excel spreadsheets, take some unstructured, structured data, understand how you could deploy a model, and test and learn. EY is doing this. We have a single platform across our entire business for all 400,000 staff. It's called EYQ. The Q is not like Q in James Bond. It's EYQ as in question. And it's our enterprise AI layer. So on every single desktop in the world, people can access EYQ. Within EYQ, you can ask it generic questions, or you can pull a skill out of it. And a skill is something like financial reporting. I need to do reporting. And you can pull that skill down, and it will help you deliver that skill.
That's really very interesting concept. Now, you also mentioned already that the way you approach bringing transformation of AI. You have worked with the leading brands, really big brands all over the world, and on digital transformation of those brands. So what kind of common hurdles do you see companies face when it comes to integrating AI into their operations? Where do we stand today on that?
I think there's three things that businesses need to do to get AI ready. They need to have that board sponsor. They need to, within the organization, have that sponsor who's going to drive the transformation program. I think, secondly, they need to integrate it into existing programs, and you need to ensure that you have the budget to do some of this is approved. Um, and that's not easy to do. So find a use case which has a good ROI, measure that use case, and use that story to help you get more budget to do more and more and more of this. And the third thing is ensure you understand how to tweak your existing internal controls frameworks to make sure that you have managed this responsibly within your organization, and you understand the regulation within your jurisdiction, and you're adhering to that. So one, get that board level sponsor, educate your business. Two is make sure you understand how to do this, deploy this within the organization. And three, how do you do this responsibly? Tweak your existing risk and regulatory frameworks. Those are some of the things that we're helping organizations do. And it really does start with that educating that individual or that board who's going to be responsible for this. Because if you've got top-down support, then it just makes it so much easier to manage internally when you're asking for budget, when you're asking to tweak internal controls, when you're asking to do something different.
Yeah, and I think maybe it's just a quality of my question. Maybe EY is generally in the right position because you talk to the people who have money, right? As compared to any other transfer consulting company or business, right? You're just already talking to the guy with the money.
Yeah, I think what's been phenomenal about our firm is we're very much a global networked business. So each of the different regional areas of EY does learn from what's going on at the centre. Our global kind of brain it resides at the centre of the organisation. It's a bit like a hub and spoke model. You know, they give us these phenomenal tools to use, which we localise and deploy locally. But it really is, they have done an incredible job helping us build a better working world from within with all of this amazing technology, but also helping us design solutions that we're now delivering to brilliant clients. We helped one really big pharma company manage their AI responsibly, tweaking their internal controls, managing for risk, and gosh, they're making such a difference because they're a huge, big healthcare and pharma brand. They're already making amazing strides with AI in their organization. So we were just really fortunate to be able to help them with that journey. Definitely building a better working world for them.
Perfect. And for, of course, all. And that's great to know. So it's like really like the champion, board level champion in AI. It's like the use cases with the right ROI and the right process, and then also making sure that it is being done in a responsible way.
Yes.
But of course, there's, we can have a long discussion on many of those topics. It's really interesting discussion going on. For the sake of time, I think then I will just go to my last question, which is going back towards, about how you feel about the AI technology. What is most exciting trend? Because as you see, and you mentioned from your book, a couple of years ago, between 2 years, there is a lot of new technology coming in. So what do you see? What excites you most? And what is technology in AI, and how does that influence your EY strategy and services in your future?
What a great question. I think someone recently said the AI you're seeing today will be the worst AI we ever experience. So if I recall when the internet happened in kind of mid-90s, you used to dial up with a modem and you used to hear that horrible tone on the telephone line as you were connecting. It was a dreadful experience. The pages were served to you and they were green and black screens. There was no imagery, there was no video. Very early days of the web is what we're seeing here with AI. I mean, that's phenomenal to think about. And what's really phenomenal to think about is where we've come the last 18 months with generative AI. It's really rapid. The pace is far more rapid than we saw with the internet. So what's exciting me is we have done, as a society, an incredible job with large language models. But we still lack in these models. They're all based on just language. We also have now got pixels. We've got image models, and Sora from OpenAI video model is quite remarkable. It's still in test, but quite remarkable. But they still lack the ability to do a thing called planning. They still lack the ability to create next steps, and they also lack real physical world experience. So I think the next steps for these models, and Yann LeCun from Meta really talks about this incredibly well, is for those net new models to really bring us the next advent of AI, which will be very different if we can make sure that they start to be able to do planning, then become even more beneficial for society. So I think, what does that mean for me, EY? Well, I think what that means is even greater employee satisfaction, because even more of the mundane, more of the kind of rules-based activity will be removed, to allow for humans to do the more creative, the more interesting, the more face-to-face work like this, like we're doing, enjoying our job. I mean, this has been a highlight of my week already, and it's a conversation between two humans. It's much nicer than me looking at my 300 emails I've received in the last few hours, So this is what I want to do with my career. I want to be doing more of this activity and less of the mundane. And I think that's where the next version of these models will definitely be going. And I'm excited about that future.
That's really, really great to know. And I think that's exactly, it's a leap compared to where we are today. If we got systems that are going to plan and technically then solve a thing for us, not really just, do a simple one task.
Yep.
No, that has been really, really nice and great discussion with you. I'm really thankful to you and honored again to have you here and for taking your time and the insights that you provide to us. So with that, thank you very much. And we close our podcast.
Thank
Have a
you.
nice day.